In a quiet village, where the evenings hum with crickets and soft winds, Samuel sits in his home. The glow of dusk wraps around him like a blanket. His tea steams gently in his hands. Across the room, Amara arranges flowers, her movements slow. Careful, they are waiting. For something new, something life-changing. The air feels heavy but hopeful. Samuel loved the village at dawn. The mist hugged the hills, and the air smelled of dew and earth. He walked slowly, his boots crunching on the dirt path. His bag of tools swung lightly at his side. Samuel was a carpenter, known for crafting. Tables and chairs that felt like they held stories. His hands were steady, but his heart was not. Amara was due to give birth soon. Their first child. The thought made his chest tight with joy and worry. He and Amara had built a life here, in this quiet place. They laughed easily, shared dreams over tea, and faced hardships together. But lately, Amara seemed distant, her smiles faint. Samuel wondered if it was the weight of pregnancy or something deeper. He pushed the thought away, focusing on the path ahead. The village was waking up. Birds chirped, a dog barked softly. He paused, looking back at their home, its chimney puffing gentle smoke. "Everything will be fine," he whispered to himself, his breath visible in the cool air. He wanted to believe it. The workshop smelled of pine and varnish. Samuel's hands moved over the cradle, sanding it smooth. He had started it months ago, when Amara first told him about the baby. Each curve of the wood felt like a promise to their child. But today, his hands trembled slightly. Amara hadn't slept well last night. She'd sat by the window, staring at the stars, her hands resting on her swollen belly. When Samuel asked what was wrong, she only smiled and said, "I'm just tired." Her voice was soft, but it carried a weight he couldn't name. He stopped sanding and looked at the cradle. It was almost finished, simple but strong. He imagined their baby sleeping in it, safe and warm. The thought made him smile, but the worry lingered. What if he wasn't ready to be a father? What if something went wrong? Sunlight poured through, the window warming his face. He took a deep breath, letting the scent of wood calm him. "One step at a time," he said aloud, his voice steady in the quiet room. Amara stood in the garden, her hands brushing the petals of a marigold. The sun was high, warming her skin. She loved this place, the way the herbs smelled, the hum of bees, the soft earth under her feet. But today, her heart felt heavy. The baby was coming soon, maybe even this week. She was ready, but she was scared. She hadn't told Samuel everything. Not yet. There was something about the baby, something the midwife had whispered after the last visit. Amara didn't understand it fully, but it made her stomach twist. She wanted to tell Samuel to share the weight, but the words stayed stuck in her throat. A breeze swept through, carrying petals to the ground. Amara closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the sun calm her. She thought of Samuel, his kind eyes, his steady hands. He deserved to know. Tonight, she decided, tonight she would tell him. She opened her eyes and looked at the flowers, their colors bright against the green. "We'll be okay," she whispered, as if the baby could hear her. The midwife's voice was soft but clear. "The baby is healthy, Amara. Everything looks good." She smiled, but her eyes lingered on Amara, as if sharing a secret. Samuel stood by the window, his arms crossed. The room felt too small, the air too thick. Amara nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Samuel glanced at her, his brow furrowed. He could feel it, something unsaid, something heavy. "Is there anything else?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The midwife hesitated, then shook her head. "Just rest, Amara. The baby will come soon." After the midwife left, Samuel sat beside Amara. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. Amara looked at him, her eyes glistening. "I don't know how to say it," she whispered. "The midwife, she said the baby might look different." Samuel frowned, confused. "Different how?" Amara took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "She said the baby might be very light-skinned." Samuel's heart skipped. He didn't understand, but the words felt like a stone in his chest. The candle flickered, painting the kitchen in soft gold. Samuel held Amara's hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "Tell me," he said gently. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Amara's eyes were red, her voice shaky. The midwife said, "The baby might be white, not like us." She looked down, tears falling. "I don't know why. I don't understand." Samuel's breath caught. He felt a rush of confusion, then fear. Their village was small, their people close-knit. Both he and Amara had dark skin, like their parents, their neighbors. A white baby? It didn't make sense. He squeezed her hand. "We'll love them no matter what," he said, his voice steady despite the storm in his chest. "They're ours." Amara nodded, but her tears kept falling. "What will people say?" she whispered. "What if they don't accept our child?" Samuel pulled her close, his arms strong around her. "We'll protect them," he said. "Always." The candle burned low, and the night felt endless, but in that moment they held each other, clinging to love. The room was quiet, save for Amara's soft breathing and the baby's faint coos. She lay in bed, her face tired but glowing with love. The baby rested in her arms, wrapped in a blanket. Samuel stood beside her, his heart pounding. He looked at the baby, and his breath stopped. The child's skin was pale, almost like moonlight, not like his, not like Amara's. The midwife's words echoed in his mind, but seeing it was different. Tears filled his eyes, spilling over before he could stop them. Amara looked up, her voice soft. "Samuel?" He wiped his face, kneeling beside her. "They're beautiful," he whispered, his voice breaking. And they were. The baby's tiny fingers curled around his, and his heart ached with love. But the tears weren't just for joy. There was fear, too. Fear of what the village would say, fear of the unknown. Yet, as he looked at Amara and their child, he felt something stronger. This was his family. He kissed Amara's forehead, then the baby's. "We're together," he said. "That's all that matters." The market buzzed with voices and the clink of coins. Samuel walked through, his basket heavy with bread and vegetables. He felt eyes on him, whispers trailing like smoke. The news had spread. His baby, so pale, so different. "Must be a mistake," he heard someone mutter. "How could it happen?" another whispered. Samuel kept his head high, but each word stung. He thought of Amara at home, rocking their child, her eyes tired but fierce with love. He stopped at a stall buying apples. The vendor, an old friend, smiled but said nothing. The silence was worse than words. Samuel's chest tightened. He wanted to shout, to tell them this was his child, his family. But he stayed quiet, his hands steady as he paid. As he walked home, the sun burned bright, but the air felt cold. He thought of the cradle he'd built, the promises he'd made. The village could whisper all it wanted. He would protect his family, no matter what. The hill was quiet. The village below bathed in sunset glow. Samuel and Amara sat close, their baby cradled between them. The child's tiny hand rested in Samuel's, so pale against his dark skin. Amara leaned against him, her warmth steadying his heart. The whispers hadn't stopped. The village still talked, still wondered. But here, on this hill, it didn't matter. Samuel looked at his child, their eyes bright and curious. He thought of the cradle, the garden, the life they were building. "We'll teach them love," Amara said softly. "We'll teach them strength." Samuel nodded, his throat tight. "They'll know they're enough," he said, "exactly as they are." The baby cooed, and Samuel smiled, tears in his eyes again. Not tears of fear now, but of hope. The village might never understand, but he and Amara did. Their love was bigger than whispers, stronger than doubt. The sun sank lower, painting the sky in fire. Samuel held his family close, feeling the world settle into place. The cradle rocked gently, the baby sleeping soundly inside. Moonlight spilled through the window, bathing the room in silver. Samuel and Amara stood together, their hands intertwined. The candle on the table burned steady, its light warm against the night. Samuel looked at the cradle, his heart full. He'd built it with love, with hope. Now it held their child, their miracle, pale as moonlight, but theirs in every way. The village's whispers felt far away now, like a distant wind. Amara rested her head on his shoulder. "We're enough," she whispered. "We are," Samuel said, his voice soft but sure. He thought of the days ahead, the challenges they might face. But he also thought of the laughter, the love, the life they would build. The baby stirred, letting out a tiny sigh. Samuel smiled, his eyes bright with tears. Not of fear, not of doubt, but of gratitude. This was his family, his home, his heart. The candle flickered, and the night held them close, quiet and whole.